This podcast is brought to you by Penji. Penji is a creative subscription service that gives you access to pre-vetted, agency-trained creatives from all over the world. From graphic design to illustrations to social media management and web development, it's all included for one monthly price. It's time to say goodbye to the hassle of searching for top-notch creative talent. With Penji, you get quality and consistency delivered right to your inbox every day, carefully crafted for you by humans. So meet your new creative team today. Head over to penji.co for more and enter the coupon code located within the podcast show notes.
Alrighty. Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Heather, for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
I'm excited to be here, and thanks for having me.
Yeah. So today we're going to start with a game, get our creative juices flowing, get excited about marketing, I suppose. So the game is called for Heather and for everyone at home, the game is called Cancel or Keep. I'm going to go through a bunch of concepts that you're probably familiar with, and you're going to tell me whether you want to do with them or do away with them. Does that sound good?
And sounds great.
All right, beautiful. Okay. Working from home, cancel or keep?
Keep.
Okay. I like that. I like that. I do work from home. So I like the hybrid, but yeah, it's nice. Using AI for content creation.
Keep. Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense.
Clients asking for viral content.
No.
Cancel.
Cancel. Cancel.
It's like Jeopardy. You have to say,
Yeah. Whoops. I'm out.
what is cancel?
Yeah. Exactly.
The pitch process.
We'll keep it. We'll keep it.
Tricky one. Yeah, it's definitely there's
tricky
important
one.
parts of it that it makes sense too. Unlimited revisions for clients.
Oh, good grief, cancel.
I completely understand. Influencer marketing.
Oh, I keep it.
I like that. Office happy hours.
I mean, I keep it. I don't drink, but I think to each his own.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Sometimes they get out of hand, but that might be the company culture and not. But that is all we have today. We ended on a controversial one, I suppose. But thank you for participating. I thought that was really fun. So, for everyone at home that doesn't know, this is the Fully Managed podcast. Today, we are going to talk about marketing and business tips that help assist you on your business journey. I'm your host, Shannon, Penji's partnership coordinator, and I'm joined here today with a very special guest, Heather Shore, president of Quantus Creative. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Shannon. I'm excited.
I really appreciate that. So, could you start by telling us just a little bit about yourself? Maybe introduce yourself a little bit differently than I would, and what led you up to this point in your business career and what you're doing now.
Sure. So I have about 20 years of marketing experience, and I started out really in corporate marketing, doing internships in retail. And from there, really pivoted around 2006 when digital started to come on and Facebook started to come on, and went into the digital space around that time. Worked my way up through different organizations around the United States. Some organizations you might know, such as Amazon and IBM, and worked with some wonderful clients across the board. Hobby Lobby, WebMD, UPS, really large brands, but great companies with great cultures, and did a lot of digital work within those different structures and stuff like that. And then I actually took some time off for 6 years and was a stay-at-home mom because I really believe you can't get that time back with little kids, and I had the luxury of being able to do that. And meanwhile, I still sort of dabbled, right, on the side. I helped a friend start an agency in Nashville, and she does book marketing for a lot of different authors out there, authors you would probably know. And helped her on the side just to sort of stay, in touch with marketing in general. While I worked at home. I worked from home with my little kids. And in 2021, I came back into the workforce and basically was recruited by a headhunter to come run Quantus Creative. Quantus has been around since 2009, but they have been sold to a private equity firm, and they were looking for somebody to lead it. And so they were very focused locally within the Tulsa region, Tulsa, Oklahoma. And what we've done is we've expanded outside into the Midwest, and we have clients now nationwide. And so the goal really was to help small to medium sized businesses create their story, because a lot of times these companies don't have the resources that they need in order to create the right assets in order to market themselves. And so that's what we've fun about doing, is really creating a high touch, high quality, high integrity um, company that helps out these different businesses around the United States.
That's wonderful. Is that are small to medium-sized businesses something that was your passion, like something that you specifically wanted to go back into when you were going into the workforce? So you guys
Yeah.
kind of did something differently before?
Correct. So I had worked in corporate marketing for a long time, and honestly, I just didn't like all the politics. And I didn't, I didn't like all the competition and everything. And at the end of the day, there's enough work to go around for everybody. And I just wanted something that was more flexible. And so that's what I was looking for when I re-entered the workforce, was something that would allow me to be a mom and allow me to do really good work and help people. Because at the end of the day, what we're doing is we are helping companies create sales and opportunities in order for them to thrive.
Yeah, and it's nice to know that you're kind of helping the little guy rather than the big corporation that sometimes doesn't really need that much help.
Correct. And they already have a strategy in place that may or may not be working for them. But also, too, I would say a lot of the small companies that we help actually have really large clients that you've heard of. And so there are a lot of people that are serving that Fortune 1000, that you may never hear of, but they are
Yeah.
helping those really large companies like Walmart, all the different people out in the different spaces, create products for them, create services for them, or whatever it may be. And so, but those people need marketing too.
Yeah, one of my favorite things to discover is if I see a really good marketing campaign, I always like to look up like who did that because I know that it's not normally sometimes it's not the corporation that did it, but they hired someone to do it. And when I find out that a small agency did their work, one I'm wondering how that ended up happening, that relationship ended up happening. But it's also
Sure.
really exciting to
Yeah.
see little guys work with big guys. Sometimes it happens, and it's nice to know that those connections are made because it is, it's not as common, but it is really nice to know that it's possible.
Yeah, exactly.
Were there any very big adjustments that you kind of had to make or reorient yourself when you moved from I know that there was still like a gap, but when you moved to the small business world to from the corporate world, was there any difference in your strategy that you had to kind of learn?
Sure. I mean, things had changed in 6 years, right? Like so much had changed, especially within social media. But what I really had to wrap my head around was the budgets were different. So, right, like with a smaller business, you're talking like $2,500 to $5,000 a month versus, hundreds of thousands of dollars a month. So, like, the budgets are just so extremely different. That's really the biggest thing. It's still marketing at the end of the day. It's just on a smaller scale.
Yeah, is there specific things that um are offered that are different than I guess because of the accounting for the smaller budgets? Is it like a different way in which you interact or different things that you create because of the budget difference?
Not really, because I still sort of run it from a high end standpoint. Like I still say, hey, we can still create strategy for you. We can still do these different things. And by basically helping you build the building blocks, right? Your web strategy, your SEO, social media, we can still help you create a sales funnel downstream. So
And that makes
still the
sense.
same strategy. Yeah.
So it's more strategy based than like hands on for the specific things in which you're creating.
Yeah. Well, both. We do both. Yeah.
So, is there anything new that you've implemented since coming in that has kind of changed maybe the atmosphere or the environment or the way in which Qantas is doing things?
Well, sure. One of the things we want to do is have fun. We want it to be an environment where people like to come to work, you know? And I don't know. And I think one of the things that I really, really stressed to everyone and how I wanted to go about changing the perception of the company in general was that we were just a high integrity organization and that we really are going to put your best interest forward as a business.
I want to know how the fun aspect is involved in this. Integrity is a very is a good word, but it's also I don't think of fun when I think of integrity. So I'm wondering how you incorporated fun and also integrity. Where's the balance?
Well, yeah, for sure. So I think part of it is just recognizing that, we're people. Like we like to joke and laugh and have a good time.
Yeah.
And so we'll go out and do different like creative field trips around town just to like get creative juices flowing. We'll take breaks. Um, and then I really offer a flexible work environment. I think that's really important in today's day and age, especially after COVID and everybody worked from home. And I think people got a little bit stuck in a rut. And so you just want to make it as fun as possible.
Yeah, I do really admire and value workplace flexibility because I do think that I'm happy that I'm happy that agencies exist in the first place because I think a lot of them are almost maybe this isn't the correct phrasing, but in spite of the corporate world, because of a lot of people that start agencies are often have incorporated themselves into the corporate world and did not like it, and created an agency in reaction to that almost because they didn't like the environment that they were in before. And I think that there are elements in which we can change about corporate structure because we're agencies and we can do things differently. And I
Mm.
do value the idea of treating human beings, like things do come up. Like
Yeah.
as long as you are completing your work, I don't understand why there's not an understanding of maybe I have different hours than other people or something like that.
Sure.
You're having
Yeah.
the right output and like the expected output of what you're supposed to be doing. Because people work differently. Some people work in the middle of the night better than they do during the day, or some people
That's
work
very true.
and I just love the flexibility of agencies and hearing that that's happening more and more rather than modeling themselves after corporate structure because I do believe that that is a better model personally.
Yeah. And I think you'll have happier employees in the long run. And that's what's so expensive is human capital, right? Like bringing people on, people leaving, that type of thing. That's what costs you so much money at the end. So why not make it a place that is valuable and fun, that people want to come to work. And then you build sort of a really good company culture from there.
Yeah, it's funny because I do think that the worry of corporations is that if we give leeway to people that they're going to get lazy or something like that. But I think
Well,
like
yeah,
obviously an extent.
sure. I think some people are worried about people taking advantage.
Yeah.
I don't think there are going to be people that do that. I've had to fire a couple that were. So I've been down that road and everything. But at the end of the day, I think if you really hire high caliber people, you end up creating the right environment that you're looking to create.
Exactly. There's definitely types of people that wouldn't ever want to take advantage of something like that because they realize it's a privilege to even have.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the type of person that you want working for you too. And also someone that cares enough to not want to take advantage of something because they want to be proud of their work, and if they're not doing enough, then they should be disappointed that they're not doing it.
Absolutely.
And that's the type of person that you want to be on your team.
Mhm.
So you had mentioned that a lot of the marketing world had changed, especially the digital world in like that gap of time. Is there something actually okay, let me reorient that. Is there a strategy that you have for keeping up with different upcoming marketing strategies, different things that have changed? Like I know Google constantly changes the way in which it does things. And that is as of a surprise for many people and very annoying. But I'm curious because I think everyone has a different way of doing it, and marketing is something that is ever changing and so difficult to keep up with sometimes. So I'm curious if you have a strategy for that.
Well, we just really try and stay plugged into what's going on in terms of watching the people that really are experts in the space. Uh, and we also have partners too, like Google partners that help us sort of stay abreast of what's going on at Google. So we don't get behind on that in terms of the SEO work that we do for clients. So those are the different things that we do. And then I think too, because we do produce a lot of our own content, and that's something we do a lot of for clients as well, is we really try to scour the different trends and things that are going on out in the industry to see what needs to be provided in terms of information for people.
Yeah, no,
What
it's
is it would be interesting for them to read?
yeah, no, that makes complete sense. It's very helpful to where you said about partners, I think it's extremely
Mhm.
helpful to have people kind of almost holding you accountable for the updating atmosphere. And it's nice to be plugged in that way of like maybe it's not something that you're entirely focused on all the time, but you do have someone to let you know when it does happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially within Google and Meta, because they're the two that are changing stuff all the time.
Yeah, exactly. So Um, for teams specifically, I love asking this because I think that it is a struggle that all agencies kind of have. Um, balancing creative and also output and strategy. How are you able to do this? I don't know if it could be maybe fostering communication within teams or figuring out how do you maintain this balance personally?
Sure. So we sort of implemented like a scrum. So we have a daily meeting where we meet about all projects and stuff like that. And then from there, we make sure that we're putting in the time from a creative standpoint to brainstorm on what needs to be done creatively in order to hit all the deadlines. And so that's the reason why we have a project manager now that can help us just churn things out and make sure that we get it done on time for clients and stuff like that. But we've done a really deep dive in the last 6 that making sure that we bake in enough time for creative development in order to produce a superior product.
Was there any difficulty in the past of maybe having deadlines that were maybe stifling creativity or like making it more difficult to be creative?
Yeah, so that is one of the maybe one of the downsides of working in corporate is that and everybody else here at the agency has worked more on agency stuff and I hadn't. So I'm used to going at a very fast pace. And so I've had to back into like timelines and creative process and things like that. And so I've had to learn to slow down, which is good. So there really is a balance, right, of bringing everybody together and being able to say, all right, so like, I'll just use a graphic piece, for example, like, creating this airport display is going to take 20 hours of time. Well, then in addition to that 20 hours of time, we've got to bake in the creative time to come up with a concept in order to then create something and get it out the door, and then account for all the revisions that are going to happen. And so I think we've done a really good job of trying to figure out that process because that was one of the bigger hurdles that we had last year as a growing agency because we grew by 35%. And that's a big thing to go through. And at the same time, also deliver a really superior product. And so we were figuring out that balance. Yeah. And I feel like we really turned a corner here in the last, excuse me, I would say 2 months of the year and everything in order to really deliver and be able to do it on time.
Yeah, it's wonderful to be able to make those adjustments, especially because it's a great thing when you grow, but it's also sometimes difficult to navigate because you have to change systems in order to make sure things are more efficient. And it's really lovely to have that accountability from your team to know, that to know that you even have to slow down. I mean, that's a really lovely environment to be in because I think that a lot of people don't realize that they're butting heads sometimes, or it just doesn't make sense to go through the same process that you did in the past because it just doesn't work for your team. And that's a great thing to acknowledge because not everyone's perfect and there's always adjustments that you have to make through a process,
Oh,
especially
yeah.
when something's growing.
Absolutely. And I think you just have to be cognizant of your own sort of hindrances, right? Your own roadblocks, and then be able to adjust. If you can't adjust, then you can't be a good leader.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like, and especially you have to account for your team at all times as well, because it's, teamwork makes the dream work. But it's true because I mean, if your team is happy and they feel like they're working at a pace that's they don't feel overloaded or constantly overloaded. I'm sure there's always times where, people are stressed and that.
Yeah, we went through some of that last year where everyone was overloaded and we made it through. But we learned a lot of lessons along the way, and I was like, we are not going through that again. So,
Yeah, and that's like sometimes you need to go through those things in order to learn something, and I don't
mhm.
think that it's necessarily bad. I think that um something that I personally believe is that failures are almost more important than successes because you get to learn from them and you get to you get to navigate and understand what works and what doesn't in those situations. Whereas when you're successful, you kind of don't get as much learning out of that sometimes.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely right.
So you mentioned earlier that storytelling is something that you guys focus on a lot, and I think for small to medium sized business, even maybe everyone, that's really important for marketing specifically. For you personally, what do you believe makes an effective storytelling style? Like that impacts a client's campaign and makes it successful.
I think just from my own personal experience, we all have a story to tell, right? And it's about our life. And when it comes to showcasing a business, especially somebody that's like an entrepreneur, it really is about getting them in front of a camera and saying, hey, you've gone and created this really cool business. Can you tell us the story behind it? And I think that really gives a unique sort of, a unique ability to showcase what somebody is about and what their business is about. And I think at the end of the day, that's what people want to hear. They want to hear your story. They want to hear how you've overcome something or you've created something or you've, gone through a year like what we went through last year. We went through a lot of growing pains, but as a result of that, we're better people on the other side. And I think that's what does a really good job of telling the story.
Yeah, I think that it is everyone has a personal experience that I think is important in kind of driving people to their service or their product. And I think that sometimes that isn't considered because people think, oh, it's similar to maybe someone else, or it's not unique enough, or it's not interesting enough. But I don't think that's always true. I think it's just the way in which you spin it or the way in which you market that makes people driven towards it. And I don't think that there's nothing I don't know if there's really anyone that has something that's boring or is not, marketable. I think it's just the way in which you interact with it.
Yeah. It's the way in which you tell it.
Yeah. Do you have a strategy for, kind of vetting what you keep in and keep out of a story, if that makes sense?
Yes and no. I mean, if I'm trying to think of the right way to say this, if there's maybe some behavior things that you went through as part of your story that may not be something you want to put out in a marketing piece. I think it really is all in how you spin it. you know. And I think there can be a lot of good that comes out of stories like that. So like for example, we have a new client where he is a survivor of a traumatic brain injury. Oh, but he went on to create this really cool product. And so I think that's a great story to tell, right? But like the reason why he created this product, it helps with safety, you know, but that was a really hard thing to go through. So there are certain aspects of our stories that I think are vital for including in that storytelling. And then I think if it's the exclusion, it's like, well, if you're out doing things you shouldn't be doing, we're not going to include that in the story. Yeah. So it just depends. Everybody's story is so different.
Yeah, I definitely think so. So looking at your past clients having worked at Qantas, do you have a favorite campaign that you've worked on? I love hearing these. I know that maybe you can't if you don't want to like reveal it because you're don't play favorites for your clients and have them find out or whatever. But I love hearing about it because it's just exciting to see people passionate about something.
Sure. Yeah. So still the favorite thing that I've created is at the Tulsa airport, and it's for Willow Rock, one of our and it's art display. And so some very famous paintings are up on the walls at the airport, which stresses me out when I see it. But I'm just like, I'm not like that. But it is still one of my favorite things that we've done, just because to visually see it, because it's so huge. It's really cool.
What was your favorite part of that process? Or was it really stressful and you're just really happy with the outcome?
No, I thought it was fun from a collaboration standpoint. Like we really got to throw up some different ideas. We had multiple rounds of revisions on that day. But it was really fun just to collaborate with the client and go, well, what do you think about this? Or what about this aspect of what we were to feature? Like this section can look like this, and then this section can look like that. And so that part was really fun. It wasn't stressful. It was actually a really fun project.
That's incredible. I love to hear that because I know that even something that can be considerably fun and creative can also be stressful. So it's really nice to know that something is genuinely just an enjoyable time to. I feel like that's what we all wish every project would be like, and sometimes it's just not that way. But that doesn't mean that you're
Sure.
not happy with your work and happy with the outcome of everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, do you have any dreams for the future of Qantas that you're kind of looking forward to or that you'd really like to happen within the next couple of years or whatever timeline you have for yourself?
Well, we're in the process of creating a podcast.
I saw that.
They've been on me for a while about that. So we're finally going to do it and talk about all the fun things that we've gone through in the organization. Because there are a lot of stories that we think would be very unique to what we've experienced. And so we've talked about that, and that'll be implemented here in the next month or so. I think for Qantas in general, what I would just love to see is to create greater impact within different communities of the clients that we serve. And so as we continue to do more and more work within nonprofit sectors and other things like that, like just being able to, I don't know, I think that really is the heartbeat of our organization is that we care. And that's one of the things that our clients say about us is like, you guys truly care about us as people. And I think that really does resonate at the end of the day because people at the end of the day want to know that they matter. And so I would just love to continue to beat that drum and create greater good.
I 100% agree with that. And that's really lovely to hear because I think that just like the corporate environment thing that I mentioned earlier, I think that agencies do have corporations have a so much money to do good, but they usually don't, or it's a
And
front or whatever it may be. But I think I love to hear agencies doing good, and I think they have such a capability too because they aren't going through so many hoops to be able to get that done. And I love hearing that mentality because it's not something that um no one's holding an agency accountable to do that. Whereas a corporation, a lot of people get angry at them or boycott them or whatever if they don't
sure.
do something. Whereas agencies, I think, have when they actually have a good heart or like a good environment because they're doing good on their own accord. No one's asking them to, or and I think that there's just I wish that I would see it more, and I am seeing it more now than I think maybe the earlier days of agencies.
Sure.
So many, and I think that there's so many good people within it, and I am hearing it more. So it is lovely to hear it from you as well, to know that helping nonprofits, um, caring about your clients and not just, getting something put out for a check or whatever it may be.
Yeah. I mean, really, at the end of the day, if you aren't impacting their bottom line, you aren't doing your job.
Yeah. You want them to be it's also something to be said about a client being happy throughout the entire process and not just the end result, which I think people don't focus on as much. Either there's not enough communication, or there's not enough reassurance that something is happening or whatever it may be. And I think that is when you have a proper process for that, um, you I think that a client will naturally feel more cared about because you're actually
Absolutely.
paying that attention to them.
Yeah.
Well, we are actually perfectly on time right now. Doris never fits the perfect little. But I thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I think this was really fun. It was great to learn more about Qantas Creative and you. And I got to learn a lot, which is my favorite part of the podcast, selfishly. So
Well,
I thank you so much.
yeah, it's wonderful to be here. I appreciate it.
Thank you. And thank you everyone for watching or listening. Please don't forget to check out other episodes to get to learn like I get to do from the podcast every time. Thank you so much and have a lovely day.
You've been listening to Fully Managed, brought to you by Penji. Check out the show notes to learn more about today's guest, and to learn more about Penji, the human-first creative subscription service, head over to penji.co. And by the way, if you're still listening, it would mean the absolute world to us if you were to share this podcast with a friend, and of course, subscribe.